Happy Mother's Day. We're glad that you could be joining us today online to celebrate our moms. Very often here at St. Peter, we offer a message that is part of what we call a series. We take a single topic, and over the course of several weeks, we delve into the topic so that we can go deeper into it and get a firmer grasp on it. So this is the fourth and final week of our series that we've been calling Face to Face. We hope to get to know Jesus a little better. So who was Jesus back then? To a people living in fear, Jesus cast a vision of living with dramatic faith and trust in God. In a culture where people thought their lives were meaningless and had no value, he taught them they were light for the world and salt for the earth. In a world where people thought they had to live enslaved to poverty and oppression, Jesus showed a way to live with this radical freedom. People either loved him or they hated him. The general population thought he was awesome. The religious people and the authorities really hated him and had him killed. And he did die, but he rose. He rose from the dead. And that's basically what Christianity is all about. And it's why we gather together today. It's about a person, Jesus, and an event, his resurrection. And this man, Jesus, wants you to know him face to face. Now, in the gospel, Jesus says, "If you know me, then you will know also my Father." So we want to know him, to know the Father. But on this Mother's Day, the word Father appears over 15 times. So let's mix it up today and ask how best to know a man. You can know a man by how he treats his mother. There are 3 stories where Jesus and his mother interact, and they offer a few surprises. The first comes from the Gospel of Luke, when Jesus was around 12 years old. Every year, his parents would take him and join a large group of family and friends and leave Nazareth to go up to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover. This particular year, Jesus simply stayed behind in Jerusalem. He didn't tell his parents, and they weren't aware because they assumed that he was in the group. It took them a whole day to figure out that he was missing. Imagine all the mothers out there realizing that your baby is missing. That's how Mary felt. And she had every reason to be concerned. So they retrace their steps and go back to Jerusalem, and after another 3 days, they finally find him where he had no business being, among the temple teachers and ministers. And you can almost hear the hurt in Mary's voice as she says, "Son, why have you treated us so? Your father and I have been looking for you anxiously." If you have kids, they will disappoint you. It just goes with the territory. And Jesus answered in some ways like a 12-year-old boy, oblivious to his mother's concerns. "Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" I like to imagine there was a gap in time where they decided not to print Mary and Joseph's response. But what Luke helps us to see is that Jesus developed just like any child. He was inquisitive, he took risks, he got into things and went places, and he liked to explore. But in the end, he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. And his mother kept all these things in her heart. Bottom line, he was obedient to his mother and to his father. The next time we see Jesus interact with Mary is in the Gospel of John. Jesus is now about 30 years old, and they're at a wedding in a town called Cana. Weddings then, as now, were a big deal, but in this culture, they could go on for days upon days. And it must have been a pretty awesome wedding because they ran out of wine. Again, imagine. Embarrassing, humiliating, disaster. Mary, who has some insight into her son by now, goes to Jesus with the concern that they have no more wine. And he responds with, "Woman, how does this concern of yours affect me? My hour has not yet come." Woman here may sound a little rude, but think of it more like a respectful word. Apparently, he has a very clear and deliberate time in mind for his ministry to begin. But this exchange also reveals the profound bond between Mary and Jesus, because without hesitation, she says to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Those words, by the way, are the last words Mary speaks in the gospel, and they serve as lasting advice to the whole church and to all of us. Do whatever he tells you. Then, not only does Jesus turn water into wine, it's a lot of wine, a superabundance and of excellent quality. Once again, a snapshot into the personality of Jesus, revealing, obviously enough, his generosity. And this miracle marks the beginning of his ministry. Then, almost like a bookend to his ministry, we see their last recorded encounter, with Jesus hanging on the cross at the very end of his ministry, the end of his life. He's been whipped, he's been beaten, and every word he spoke from the cross cost him enormous pain and suffering. Imagine, as a mother or a child. And when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing near, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Again, that word woman, to honor his mother. Jesus' last request and final command concerns the care of his mother, a snapshot into the personality of Jesus. And there's 3 lessons that we can take away from these encounters. The first lesson, his relationship with his mother was real and authentic, and that means sometimes it got messy, just like being a mom today. And the second lesson, they were obedient and loyal to one another, even staying together through his death on the cross. When a mom gets up in the middle of the night for that crying child, that is obedience, which in turn earns her the obedience she later deserves from her children. Parents care for us as children. We in turn care for them later in life. And finally, these 2 people loved each other. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. She treasured him. He died for her. The story of Christ from Christmas to the cross is a love story with mother and son at the very heart of it. This Mother's Day, if you're with your mom today, or even if you're not, even if she is no longer with you, treasure her.